There it
And
is. Michigan plays Washington for the national championship. Number 1 versus number 2, 14-0 versus number 14-0. Michigan's favored by 4.5 points. Washington, we're not going to break down that game, but it was a really good game too. They looked dominant. Michael Penix Jr. looked like the best quarterback in college football. I think he probably should have won the Heisman. Sue me, I don't care. His team actually won something unlike the other Heisman winner, but we won't get into that. But I think this is gonna be a great game. I think there's good on good. There's a little bit of weakness on a little bit of weakness here. It's hard to pick out weaknesses on these teams, but if you can, there's a little bit here and there. But I just got a notification on my phone that Dylan Johnson, the running back for Washington, plans to play. So that's good news for them in this one. But this is another one where it should be a great game. The Joe Moore winning offensive line goes up against the reigning Joe Moore winning offensive line. Overall, it's just going to be a great game. Justin, what are your thoughts going into this one?
Michigan, to me, is, again, I just think they've been the best team in college football over the course of the season, and it's no different in this. No disrespect to Washington. Washington's a really good team, but there's something to be said, again, about not only the camaraderie of the Michigan team, but just the defense of Michigan and how exceptional they've been all season. And I think what that defense is going to do is they're going to impose their will on Washington, because I know Washington, as we see, they want to not only, get their playmakers in space, but they want to utilize the deep ball. Michigan stays really within themselves, and I don't think they're going to be able to take that deep ball, and what is Washington going to do when that big part of their offense is taken away from them? Because Penix does struggle with the middle of the field intermediate throws. So if they force him into that Washington offense is going to look completely different. We're talking about a defense that gave up 9.4 points per game. This is going to be the true test. And I just don't think Washington, for what it's worth, I mean, they played in, a lesser conference. Texas, not known for their defense. Big 12, not known for their defense. So I just think Michigan's going to impose their will. I think it may be close early, and then I think Michigan, similar to what Michigan's done majority of this season, the Rutgers game, for instance, that game was close up till about halftime, and then Michigan started to pull their way. It's just going to be no different here. I just think they're going to be able to wear them down. They're the deeper team. They recruit better, and they've been here before, and they've shut out all this noise, man. I just feel like this team is so together and so much as a unit right now. It's going to be really hard to beat them regardless.
Feels like destiny. I mean,
Yeah.
it really does. Derek, what do you think? Destiny, or are you a little nervous?
Any given week right now, right? So we're down to the national championship game. And you never know the way things are going to roll, right? This past week, Michigan muffed 2 punts. You had some uncharacteristic plays where I think the Samaj Morgan running a slant on third down, and one of the fastest guys on the football field as a true freshman, but ball went right through his hands. Right, if he probably catches that 99 times out of 100, he probably catches that, and he catches that one in stride, and he's got a lane. Right. When you make those plays, the game gets a lot easier. When you don't make the plays that are there to be made, the game gets a lot harder. So any given week, there's no do-overs in a game. And when you're practicing, you can get as many reps as you want. In a game, you've got one rep at that one opportunity. And if you don't make a play, that could be majorly impacting of the end result of what happens in the game. So I don't want to say so comfortable that it's going to be a walk in the park, because it certainly isn't. And everything that you're talking about with the Michigan culture, Justin, I think Washington embodies a lot of that same stuff. They're another team. Penix should have been the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. And those receivers, they're good. They've got some good receivers. That offensive line was voted the best offensive line in college football. Michigan's defensive line is going to take that as disrespect against their brothers this week, but give credit to Washington. They've built themselves, and there's no controversy there that that they've had to battle through, but there's not much respect either. Nobody, even though they beat Oregon the first time they played them, nobody. I think Oregon was like a 10-point favorite or something like that for the Pac-12 championship.
Yep.
So they've been the ones that have been disrespected every step of the way as well in a different manner. And they talk about Michigan only having 2 5-stars on their roster and how big that is to have a team like that beat a team like Alabama. Washington has 0. So in this game, there are 2 total 5-star recruits on the football field. Colorado has more than that on their roster. TCU has more than that on their roster. So you're talking about football teams, not a bunch of highly recruited football players in this game. I think you're exactly right, though, Justin. I think that what we saw with Washington and Texas was a classic Big 12 defense against a classic Pac-12 defense.
Yep.
That defenses in the Big Ten and defenses in the SEC are a little bit different than defenses in the Pac-12 and defenses in the Big 12. The defensive line is not going to give the same amount of time. You saw it this week. That defensive line was caving the pocket every single time that they tried to keep Milroe in the pocket. The secondary, right? It's besides Will Johnson and no-star secondary, but man, Josh Wallace played phenomenal. Rod Moore played phenomenal. Keon Sabb played great. Will Johnson, or not Will, Quentin Johnston played great in the secondary. So I think that this is a different beast. That Michigan does have the best defense in college football, I feel, and it's at every level. And there might not be a first-round draft pick at every level like there was on Alabama's defense, but there's a group of stars. There's a 5-star defensive line with no 5-stars on it. There's a 5-star linebacking core with no 5-stars on it. A 5-star secondary with only 1 5-star in it on Michigan's defense because of the development that those players have been coached into. And that's gonna, if you watched Washington throughout the course of the year, the games that they struggled in were the games that they couldn't get the passing game open. The games that the game script pulled them where they had to play from behind a little bit. Those were the games that they struggled in, and that very well could be the game script that Michigan puts them in. But it will be close because Michigan's not the team that hits big plays and has 1 to 2 minute scoring drives. They're gonna beat you up every time they have the ball. They're gonna be throwing body shots. They're gonna beat the body before they throw any haymakers. And what that does to a team like Washington is really frustrating because 7-minute drive here, 7-minute drive here, 7-minute drive here. Pretty soon it's halftime and it's 13-3. You feel like you're in the game, but you feel pretty frustrated because you don't feel like you got any opportunities. And I think that's what Michigan's done all year. That's allowed them to pull away in the second half is just little by little. You outscore someone 13-3 each half, you end up with a 26-6 game, which old college football might call that close, but with new clock rules this year in college football, it's a lot more NFL-like as far as the scores and the importance of each possession.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, Michael Penix, like both of you guys have alluded to, is the absolute key in this game, and not just what he does, but what he is able to do with his offensive line as well. We saw the kind of pressure that Michigan was able to get on Jalen Milroe consistently with some of the stunts that they do and just the sheer power of what they were able to do to Alabama's offensive line, who is a young offensive line. They have a ton of I don't know if all of them are 5-stars, but they have a lot of stars on that line. But at the end of the day, like, Michigan still had the dudes to, number one, outsmart them with some of their stunts, and number two, just out physical them in a lot of ways. Washington has the Joe Moore winning offensive line, and so it's going to be a huge test for them because Jesse Minter is going to be scheming up every single thing possible. Those defensive tackles that Michigan have are uber athletic. Seeing some of them be able to stunt the way they do. I think sometimes we see a stunt and we're like, oh, why don't more teams do that? And it's like, because not every team has a 340 defensive tackle who has the agility of a wide receiver. I mean, obviously that's probably a bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? Like, he's just super athletic. Kenneth Grant is another one of those guys, just uber athletic to be able to do what he does. And so it's going to be critical for Washington's offensive line to give Michael Penix time. And the other part of Michael Penix that I think is a little underrated about his game with how he is able to help his offensive line is that he does have that quick release. I mean, you can see Michael Penix sometimes where like he doesn't move his feet at all and he just shoots his arm and the ball goes wherever it seems to need to go. I mean, there was one throw, I can't remember exactly which one it was, but there was somebody coming around in a stunt. One of the Texas defensive ends came around in a stunt, was basically a free hitter on Michael Penix Jr., and the dude just flicked his wrist,
Yep.
and the ball just hit right in the breadbasket of the wide receiver. And so, I mean, Michael Penix is going to have to do that all game long. Is he able to? I have no idea. I don't think he's able to. I think Michigan's secondary is better than Texas's secondary by a lot. I don't think Texas has a very good secondary, so I think that helped Washington out. But at this point, I'm done picking against Michigan. I'm picking Michigan in this one to win, and I'm picking them to win by 10 plus points, two scores, because at the end of the day, I think that, a lot of the stuff that you said, Derek, with frustrating Washington's offense and, those long drives and really wearing out Washington's defense, I think that stuff is going to come to fruition. And if Washington does score, it's going to be on, some big plays that's going to get their defense right back out there and really make it difficult for them. So I think it's good for Washington that their running back is playing. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, I'm picking Michigan by at least 2 scores. I think I personally, it just doesn't seem likely to me that Washington wins. Not as experienced a coach. Jim Harbaugh's a better coach. Michigan's the better team. At the end of the day, it would take some crazy mess ups by the Michigan, special teams and stuff like that. A lot more than what we saw against Alabama for them to win. But I don't think Jim Harbaugh's going to let that happen. If anything, it was kind of good that it happened against Alabama because I don't think Jim Harbaugh's going to let it happen again.
Yeah. And this is actually, if you've watched Michigan historically, they're much sharper from the start of the game when they get to game plan for a week. That big break between the regular season and like New Year's Day bowl games or the college football playoffs, that big break, you've seen it kind of 3 years in a row now, right? They came out and didn't look good against Georgia a couple years ago. They came out and played the worst game of the year last year against TCU, and then they came out yesterday and started the same way, right? Their offense went 3 and out, and then their defense stepped up and forced Alabama to punt right away, and they fumbled the punt and then gave up a touchdown run, right? And it was like all over again. Just mistake to start the game. They're much sharper as a team when they get that 1 week of preparation and get right back to it.
Can I have one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead. Last thing.
Just to support your prediction too is, and what I've noticed is a lot of people in the conversation, right? We're focusing strength on strength, right? Washington's offense versus Michigan's defense. And I get that, right? But you're not focusing on the advantage that Michigan has, I believe, in their offense versus Washington's defense. And that disparity, we're talking about Michigan's defense being better than Washington's offense. And if it's not, people are saying it's close. Nobody's saying Washington's offense is going to go dominate Michigan's defense. Then you look at the other side of the ball. And to me, that's not that disparity isn't made up. It's made worse. So that's just more kind of, I think the national conversation right now is just too much of focusing on strength versus strength. And they need to look at the other side of the ball, because I think that's where the biggest story is.
Yep. And one last thing too, because you asked about officiating in the game yesterday, and we all agreed that it was pretty fair. Maybe a missed call here or there. Michigan, I think, is like the number 2 least penalized team in college football, and I think Washington is like the second most penalized team in college football. So when it comes down to stuff like that, that can play a big role.
Discipline. Yep.
Got to stay away from the penalties. So, all right, good analysis here. Our friend Jackson's in. What's up, Big Ten Nation? Good to see you, Jackson. Friends with Justin over at The Voice of College Football. Appreciate you checking out the show. Hey, thanks for listening to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.